Hi, here's my December update on the Malaysia My Second Home program and related matters. Starting off with new applications for the program, well, they're still not accepting new applications, and our attempts to find out when that will happen have been unsuccessful. One thing that has been made clear is that at this point, they have no intention of changing the revised criteria. So if you don't make the 40,000 ringgit a month and are not willing to place a million ringgit on a fixed deposit at 1 or 2%, then you will not be eligible. Now, we have seen and have received a lot of feedback from expats who are working here, who have been planning to retire here under the Malaysia My Second Home program. And quite a few of them already bought houses and they've lived here for quite a few years. And suddenly they found they're not able to do that. So obviously that's quite depressing for them. The fact is that for the last 20 years, that option has been available to them. And now the ones who are approaching retirement suddenly discover that they're not able to stay here. And if you've completely settled here, bought a house here, have your family here, it's obviously quite distressing to suddenly discover the country will not let you stay on. Whether or not the government will back down on these regulations is hard to say. What is very, very clear is there will be very few applications. We have gone from a very large number of people who are interested in joining the program, who could have collectively brought in billions of ringgit to help the Malaysian economy, now reduced to one application, which we've not been able to make because the program's not open to anybody. Well, that clearly is not a very satisfactory situation. As regards the application of new rules to existing visa holders, as we previously advised, that did not happen, although it was stated that the 90-day residency requirement would be enforced. However, that has not been enforced. And recently we just received some written documents saying these are the various forms that are required to apply for renewal of a visa, extension of a visa, adding a dependent, etc., etc. Everything except applying for a new MM2H visa. And the only change mentioned there was that when you get a renewal in future, it will only be for 5 years, not for 10 years. Now, this has not been mentioned before, but this is what it said on the written instructions. However, even that has not been implemented. And we just put, in fact, a renewal in yesterday and they received 10 years. So it's not clear when these changes will be made, but of course we will advise you as soon as we learn more. It's looking more and more like the new requirements will not be changed until maybe next year, when they see there are so few applications that they need to rethink the program rules and regulations. And of course, with so many other countries now offering retirement visas at much more attractive terms, obviously that's a loss for Malaysia, the Malaysian economy, and for the Malaysian people who benefited from the spending of these visa holders. As we said before, it's a very small number of people. It's probably the smallest group of expats in the country, but they were making a nice contribution. And it's sad when we get emails, as I got one the other day from a chap who was planning to retire here. He'd already purchased an apartment in Penang for over 4 million ringgit. But when he discovered the new rules, he said, well, I'm certainly not going to place another million ringgit on some low interest fixed deposit. So I'll probably end up selling my apartment and moving to Thailand instead. And another gentleman came to see me and said he had planned to open up an operation in Malaysia to complement the ones he had in the States and in Europe, but because of the treatment of the expats under MM2H, he's now having second thoughts about that. So that was a clear example of where the changes are having an effect on foreign direct investment. So it's very unfortunate that these events have collectively had a potentially quite serious impact on the Malaysian economy. Anyway, moving onwards, My Travel Pass, as we've said before, it used to be a requirement that you got approval if you were a foreigner to come back into the country. It's no longer required that you complete this if you have a valid visa. However, if your MM2H visa expired while you were locked out of the country, then of course you can use it now, the My Travel Pass, to come here and renew your visa. Similarly, if you were approved for the MM2H visa but were unable to collect it before the country went into lockdown last year, then again, now you should be able to get in and they will issue you with the full, we think, the full 10-year visa. And it's not clear at this point how long you have to come and collect the visa. It was originally 6 months, which obviously has passed, but how many more months before they say, sorry, the approval is expired? It's not quite clear at this point. But we would recommend that you do try and come back in the next 2 or 3 months, either to collect a new visa or to renew an expired one. The COVID situation in Malaysia is improving. The daily count of new cases has dropped from over 30,000 a day a couple of months ago to around 5,000 to 6,000. And we're seeing an even bigger drop in the number of deaths. And a lot of that is because the vaccines seem to be working, and a large percentage, at least 75% of the total population and nearly all adults have been vaccinated. And the country continues to comply with the various SOPs that were put in place, including wearing a mask when outside your home. And the reality is, it's very, very clear from around the world that vaccinated people, although they're still catching COVID-19, are not having the serious outcomes that were so common before. So being properly, fully vaccinated, and even taking booster shots does seem to make quite a bit of difference to your likelihood of not ending up in hospital, or worse still, dying from the virus. This good news has been accompanied by a gradual opening of the borders. Only gone a short way so far. They opened up Langkawi to tourists. If they were fully vaccinated, they have to go through a number of COVID-19 tests, but they were allowed to visit the island, and after 7 days were free to come onto the mainland. They've also opened up a vaccinated travel lane between Singapore and Kuala Lumpur International Airport. So if you want to fly here, if you take a VTL flight, then you can come here without going into quarantine. And similarly, they're in a small scale, much smaller scale, doing the same thing across the border from Singapore to Malaysia, although there you have to go on buses and you must have a valid visa to live in Malaysia in order to qualify. And there's a limited number each day that can actually use the buses. But it's not possible to drive your car across or walk across under the VTL system. The Sarawak visa has a lot of interest because they have stuck with their old rules, which are very reasonable, and the program now looks a lot more attractive to people because it does seem that they understand the requirements of attracting people. And although Sarawak isn't as well known or as popular as West Malaysia, it does offer a very nice lifestyle. And at this time, that visa is valid in West Malaysia. Whether that will continue in the future is anyone's guess. But certainly it's very attractive just to live in Sarawak if that's the only option available to you. If you come and live in West Malaysia, which as I say you can do now, then you have to spend at least 15 days a year in Sarawak, but that's the only requirement. Finally, the tax on foreign income. We are getting a lot of mixed feedback on that. It was just a proposal in the budget. It will certainly be implemented, but the impact it will have on Malaysian My Second Homers is not clear at this time. As soon as we have more information, we will bring it to you. That's all I have this month. Hopefully, we will see further improvements in the COVID-19 situation. Next month, the Omicron variant, we're still waiting for more information. The experts, not the media, which are making everyone very scared, but the experts are saying that it will take another 10 days or so before they can get some really hard data on how much of a threat this is. But preliminary signs, it appears that it's much more transmissible, and also that the effects are less severe than with other variants. So that's good news if it's true. So I'll provide you with more information next month and add anything else that I think is relevant. Until then, stay safe, have a great year end and a good Christmas if you celebrate it. Have fun. Bye.